So, what actually makes a great leader? I mean, really. For centuries, people have been debating this, and today we're going to unpack the major theories that try to answer that very question. We'll look at everything from the classic ideas to the most modern, and yeah, even the controversial ones.
And really, we have to start with the one fundamental question that has shaped this entire conversation. Are leaders born with some kind of natural, innate set of qualities? Or can leadership be learned and developed by pretty much anyone? This single question splits all of the classic thinking right down the middle.
So, on one side, you have trait theory, and on the other, you've got behavioral theory. Now, what's interesting is that both of these theories pretty much agree on the characteristics of a good leader, but they could not disagree more on where those characteristics actually come from.
Trait theory is, well, it's pretty straightforward. It basically suggests that people inherit the qualities of a good leader. You're either born with things like adaptability and decisiveness, or you're not. Now, under this view, having these traits doesn't automatically guarantee you'll be a leader, but it argues you definitely can't be one without them.
Behavioral theory just completely flips that idea on its head. It argues that leadership is a skill, something that can be learned. It says anyone can become a leader by observing, by studying, and by practicing specific behaviors. And this opens the door to all kinds of different styles a person can adopt, right? From the my way or the highway autocratic style to the more collaborative democratic approach, or even that super hands-off laissez-faire style.
But as you can probably imagine, that whole born versus made debate started to feel a little too simple, a little too black and white. What if both theories were missing the most important variable of all, the situation itself?
And asking that question, well, it launched a whole new wave of thinking, called contingency theory. Its core idea is actually pretty simple. There's no single best way to lead. A truly effective leader is more like a chameleon, perfectly adapting their style to whatever context they find themselves in.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting because even within contingency theory, there are different models. So if you look at the Fiedler model up top, it actually argues a leader's style is pretty much fixed. So the trick is to match the right leader to the right job. But the other two models here are way more dynamic. The situational model suggests a leader should change their style based on how mature and experienced their team is. And the path goal model, it sees the leader as a kind of troubleshooter. Their main job is just to clear the path and remove obstacles for their team. The key takeaway from all of this is that leadership is just not one size fits all. It is all about the context.
All right, so we've covered the leader's traits, and we've covered the situation, but that still leaves out a huge piece of the puzzle, the human element, the power of relationships.
And this brings us to two of the most talked about leadership styles today, transactional and transformational. Both of them are all about how leaders interact with and motivate their people. But boy, do they go about it in fundamentally different ways.
Think of transactional leadership as basically a contract, an exchange. The leader sets really clear expectations, and the followers are motivated by a system of rewards for good performance and, corrective actions for poor performance. It's pretty effective for keeping things stable and getting specific tasks done efficiently. You do this, you get that. Simple.
Transformational leadership, on the other hand, is all about inspiration. These leaders don't just manage, they motivate. They paint this compelling vision of the future, they create a real sense of purpose, and they push their followers to grow and achieve way more than they ever thought was possible. The goal isn't just to check off tasks, it's to actually transform the people and the organization.
And if we dig even deeper into the whole relationship thing, we find something called leader-member exchange theory. What this theory points out is that leaders don't have one single uniform relationship with their whole team. Instead, they form a unique one-on-one relationship with every single person. Some of those are high quality, built on trust and respect, the in-group, and others might be purely transactional, just a simple exchange of work for pay.
So this focus on relationships and inspiration, it leads us to our next set of theories, where leadership is way less about external factors and much more about the leader's internal compass, their values, their ethics, their purpose. And that brings us to this seemingly paradoxical idea, servant leadership. The core belief here is that to be a great leader, you have to first want to serve other people. As you can see in this model, it all flows from what the theory calls agape love, which is basically a selfless, moral commitment to doing what's right for your people.
And this isn't just some vague, fuzzy concept. It's built on 7 specific virtues. From that foundational love comes humility, altruism, having a vision for others, building trust, empowering people, and finally, the act of service itself. The focus is always on the follower's growth and well-being.
And running right alongside that is authentic leadership, an idea that has become incredibly popular recently. It's all about leading from your core values, being genuine, self-aware, and transparent. An authentic leader isn't trying to put on an act or be someone they're not. They lead from a place of real integrity and personal conviction.
Now, these purpose-driven theories, they sound great, don't they? Servant leadership, authentic leadership, it's all very inspiring, but it's time for a reality check. Just because a theory is popular doesn't mean it's perfect. In fact, some of them have come under some pretty serious fire. Take authentic leadership, for example. I mean, despite its popularity, it's faced some very serious academic criticism. This quote here points to its shaky foundations and weak empirical studies, which basically suggests the actual hard evidence for it might not be nearly as strong as we'd like to think. And it's a good reminder that researchers are constantly debating all of these theories.
And the problems get even more specific. Some of the foundational research papers have actually been retracted. Critics have pointed to statistically impossible results being reported, and in some cases, the original authors couldn't even produce their data for other people to verify. It's a really powerful reminder that we should always approach these theories with a critical eye.
So, after that whirlwind tour through the world of leadership theory, what's the big takeaway? I mean, where does all of this leave us? Let's try to bring it all together.
I think the most important thing to remember is this. There is no single right answer. The goal is not to find the one true theory of leadership. It's to see all of these different ideas as tools in a leadership toolkit. Each one gives you a new lens, a new way to understand a situation, a person, or even yourself.
And maybe the best way to use that toolkit is to boil it all down to one simple but incredibly powerful question. Instead of asking yourself, am I a transformational leader or am I being a servant leader, the most effective leaders are constantly asking themselves this: what does this person in this situation need from me right now? Answering that, well, that's the true art of leadership.